Dude, I'm so tired. It's okay.
Me too.
Hi, my name is Selena,
And my name's Ansel.
and you're listening to Real Talk, where we talk for real about what we think about the most recent movies we've watched.
Today's episode is about After Yang.
Which is famously both of our favorite movies, one of our favorite movies.
Right, it's in both of our Letterboxd top 4s.
Yeah, it's been there on my top 4 for at least over a year now, so...
We had this idea to cover all of our top 4 movies, like do a kind of a series where we rewatch our favorite movies one by one and talk about them. And so we talked about rewatching After Yang for a couple weeks, and Selena didn't feel ready to rewatch it yet. And then what did you say? Why did you suddenly get ready? Feel ready?
I think, I don't know, like I was at work one day and then I decided to step out during lunch because, sitting in the office for 8 hours straight is a killer. And then I was just like outside, I was like staring at the trees, and then the trees reminded me of After Yang.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I was like, and then I texted you now, and I was like, I think it's time.
I was so happy to hear.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, it felt like the right moment. Yeah, what about you? Like, did you feel like you were ready to rewatch it, and why? How did you know?
I think I was ready first. I don't have a specific moment like that. I think I just felt like I needed something to cheer me up, basically. Or, like, feel more motivated.
Aww.
Because the first time I watched it, I was so touched and moved. And the way I described it, I think, was something along the lines of, I want to bask in the warmth of this movie forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't feel that way this time.
Oh, no. Okay, we'll get into that in a bit.
Okay.
What do you think was different, like, in general? So maybe let's not go into the movie specifically yet. Like, is there anything that's different on the outside about, like, I don't know, your viewing conditions or where you are at life that you think changed your impression of the movie?
Well, this could get really personal. But, okay, can I just preface this by saying when I rewatched it first before Selena. And when Selena saw my rating on Letterboxd, she texted me saying, "Bitch, what the hell? You lowered your rating?"
Yeah, dude, disrespectful. I'm kidding, it's fine, yeah.
So, did you ask what was different?
Yeah.
I don't think much was different. Maybe it wasn't the exact best moment to watch it. First of all, I was really sleepy. But I think it was more like I had a different viewing experience. Like, I saw the movie in a different perspective. I saw it more in Jake's point of view. Jake, played by Colin Farrell. We can get into that later. And I just completely had a different experience just watching the movie. It's not necessarily outside factors, I don't think.
Okay, that's interesting. So before watching the movie, I was worried that I would have a different experience. But I don't think I had, like, a dramatically different experience. So, during the first viewing last year, I pretty much cried throughout the movie. And last night when I watched it, I didn't cry as much, but I still cried at, like, the critical points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I think it worked. I think those, like, critical moments are probably, for me at least, like, timeless in their effects. Yeah, so it wasn't... Well, okay, so it wasn't too different, but at the same time, obviously, like, the novelty has faded because I'm rewatching it. And I was also very sleepy, actually, until I started crying, so...
Well, I was still moved by certain critical scenes that you are referring to, but also a bit less because I know kind of what's coming, and more importantly, it just didn't have the effect that I was hoping it would have, which was the way I felt when I first watched it, which was more uplifting. it had the opposite effect. And I was horrified to feel that way after seeing the movie.
Oh my god. Interesting. I think it's interesting that you found it uplifting the first time.
But you did too, because I was down and you recommended this movie because I was down.
Maybe you were too down. That's why you found it uplifting.
Okay, yes, I will admit that I was probably more down then.
For me, it's like, it's not too uplifting or too much of a downer. It's like right in the middle and has a good balance.
Right. I didn't mean uplifting like a total feel-good movie, but it was definitely sort of, it left me feeling warm in a sort of melancholic way. But this time it was just like, oh god.
Okay, wait, so what does the oh god mean?
Just like, well, this is depressing.
Oh god, okay. What was depressing about it?
Are we getting into the movie now?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about the movie before we dive right in. It's a lo-fi sci-fi film that focuses more on connections and relationships rather than conventional elements of sci-fi. And so basically in this sci-fi world, families that adopt Chinese children have the option of also purchasing and bringing into their families techno-sapiens or robots or, AI bots that also look Asian themselves and can accompany Asian child that the families have adopted. And this is one way for the families to help their children stay in touch with their Chinese heritage. And so these bots would speak in Chinese with their children and provide quote unquote Chinese fun facts. Yeah, and so that's the premise. And this family is composed of Jake, the dad, and the wife, whose name I forgot.
Kira?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So their daughter is Mika. She's probably in kindergarten or first grade. I can't tell. They're all the same to me. And they have a techno-sapien bot with them named Yang, and he looks after Mika, takes care of her, especially because both of Mika's parents are always busy and working. So yeah, Yang steps in as a parent figure. Until one day, he shuts down and doesn't work anymore. So Jake, the dad, tries to find a way to fix him, but we soon find out that it's a little more difficult than they thought. And they learn some very interesting things in the process, which is at the heart of the movie.
Well put.
Thank you. Should we talk about the opening first?
Oh, hell yes. I still love the opening, I have to say.
Yeah, I still loved it the most the first time. Second time was still pretty cool. Cool, but I knew what was going to happen, yeah.
So the opening is basically, well, there's a couple, there's a scene, and then the opening credits is, there's this dancing game. Or they're doing these ridiculous dances as, families, and it's a competition thing. By the way, this time I noticed, Haley's character,
Haley
the
Lou
clone.
Richardson?
Yes. She was in one of the families who were competing.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that on my first watch.
I think all of the main actors, except for the mechanic, were in the opening dancing scene.
Even the museum lady?
Yeah, the museum lady was in there.
Oh my god. Okay,
dude.
wow, the more you know.
Yeah, and when she started dancing, the actress's name came up in the opening credits.
Oh, I completely ignored the words.
That's fine, yeah. The words weren't that important. Yeah, no, the opening is awesome.
Yeah, it's charming. Some people don't like it, but
Oh, really?
Screw
Who
you.
doesn't like it?
Miguel.
What? Can we,
Hey, he
can we
liked
bring him
Columbus.
up on the podcast?
I think would prefer if we didn't, but whatever.
Okay. So your friend Miguel doesn't like it.
Dude, that's making it weirder. We're cutting that out.
Yeah, it's like a very quirky, stagey opening.
Yes, it catches you by surprise. And it just makes you laugh.
It very much caught me by surprise, yes. Yeah, then though the first time when I watched it, so my first impression was like, wow, this is going to be a really good movie. Because, I don't know, it was just so well set up initially. And you just have the feeling that this movie is in good hands. That was my, like, first impression.
Right.
During first
Way
viewing.
from the beginning, I was, like, transfixed.
Yeah.
And throughout, obviously.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it.
Yeah, and that's, like, a mark of a great movie. So if it catches you in the beginning and keeps your attention from there on out.
Exactly.
A+.
And you know what? The scene before the opening credits, before the dancing, where it's kind of just sad. We see Colin's character, Jake, in his tea shop. And, you know, it's just kind of sad in the music. That already had me tearing up a little bit.
yeah, it was a pretty sad first few sequences before the opening credits dance scene.
Right.
And I guess speaking of that, just like the transition between the tones, like the melancholy of the beginning shots, moving into like a super upbeat, hyped up dance sequence. That was really well done.
By the way, this is directed by Kogonada.
Yeah, he's a South Korean-born filmmaker who grew up in the States, I think. And I forgot specifically what his background was, but I remember he studied film in some capacity. I think he studied aesthetics, aesthetic theory.
Interesting.
Or something along the lines of that. And I will say you can really see it in his films, like the attention he puts to the aesthetics, both like in his way of directing and also just the stage production.
And his love for Japanese aesthetics also displayed in this movie.
Yeah, he draws on Ozu as a huge influence. I've only seen one of Ozu's film, and I can see some of the inspiration there.
What else can we say about him? He used to do video essays.
Oh yeah, and I don't remember watching any of his video essays. Maybe I skimmed through one of his Before Sunset video essay or...
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, it's like there's no narration or anything. It's just clips. Okay.
Exactly. And we don't know his real name. So mysterious.
Yeah, very mysterious, you know. I wonder what his real name is. Actually, it doesn't matter,
Kim.
I guess, you know.
Kim something.
Oh my god, imagine if he was one of the Kims.
Probably, in all likelihood.
No, that was smart, like coming up with like a pseudonym. I was gonna say, I think if I remember correctly, he decided to choose a pseudonym because I think when he first created like a script or developed his first movie, he was afraid that it would fail. So if it wasn't his real name, the movie would go down with the fake name. So he would preserve like his real identity, like the dignity of his real identity, yeah. But I guess it worked out and he kept his pseudonym, so. His other movie is Columbus, which I've seen but you haven't. Similarly, very beautifully shot, very like meditative. Stars Haley Lou Richardson and John Cho. Maybe we'll do another episode on that, but yeah. You should watch it.
As long as you're willing to maybe rewatch it or just talk about it from what you remember.
Yeah, I think while I was watching After Yang, I realized that I'm also ready to rewatch Columbus.
Okay.
So, both After Yang and Columbus, I realized that to me, they're very much like art pieces. So I can, I feel like I can rewatch them several times and not get tired of it because they're just like an art installation in and of themselves, you know, like a piece of art that I can just watch and, in your words, bask in the warmth of it, but maybe not warmth, but just like the beauty of it.
Right. No, but I just felt like the beauty was the warmth. like the beauty of nature, life, people, relationships. That's what moved me the first time I saw it. We talked about those 3-second clips, or were they 5-second clips? The montage. How brilliantly done that was. This time felt a little more cheesy, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, well, so let's talk about the montage.
Okay.
So are they the scenes where Colin's character looks at Yang's memories and then the memories like repeat themselves a few times?
Yeah, it's gotta be one of them, but I feel like there were 2 times in the movie where there was some sort of montage.
Oh, okay. So
clips.
the first montage was when he put on the glasses, right?
Must be. What was the second one then?
He puts on the glasses again, but like different scenes.
Or maybe it was like right, and then like towards the end he was looking at the picture again, the family picture.
Okay, so the first montage is when Jake receives the memory drive that is from Yang.
Wait, before that.
Okay.
Wait, before that. Because Yang has broken down, Jake is going around desperately trying to get him fixed. He has a warranty, so he should be able to get fixed, but then some sort of evil corporation, I suppose, kind of reminds me of Blade Runner, actually, that called Brothers and Sisters, that makes these AI techno-sapiens. Is that what they're called? Right. That's kind of hilarious. Techno-sapiens. Basically doesn't allow you to tamper with the core of the techno-sapien. And what was wrong with Yang was his core, so he would have to have been recycled and he wouldn't have been fixed. So he goes around to like shady mechanics to try to get Yang fixed. Doesn't work, but when they went into his core, they found a memory box thing which contained all of Yang's memories, or at least what he deemed worthy of remembering. And these are basically all 5-second clips. And so Jake obtains these glasses which connect to his core memory thing, where he can view these memories in a sort of VR way, I suppose. Cool glasses, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you notice they turned into sunglasses when they put it on and it starts to...
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah,
Very cool glasses. Also, the system when it's like reading the memories was pretty cool too. Like, it was visually soothing.
Yes, and did you notice how the memories were arranged in like tree shapes?
Yeah, I did somewhat recognize that. I think in my brain, because I recommended this movie to a friend of mine, and after she watched it, she described it as like a universe. And so I was trying to see the universe in the arrangement when I was watching the second time around.
Like the stars or something, galaxies.
But no, I think you're right. It was in a tree shape. But I guess that's how data is structured anyways.
Yes, but also it's pertinent because of the whole tree metaphor that Yang tells Mika about families. Because there's a whole other... Like, this movie explores so many themes, maybe none fully enough, perhaps. And one of them was sort of identity, or what it means to be human, Asian, part of a family, all, like, everything.
Yeah. So the first time I watched the movie, I mostly went along with my, like, physiological response, which is just, like, crying throughout the movie, and at the end I was like, okay, I'm done. That was a great movie. I'm not gonna think more about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, not
kind of the same.
Not that I'm not gonna think more about it, but...
Right, but we kind of didn't have much to say. Even if we didn't fully comprehend every part of the movie, we were fine with that. We kind of just felt like the movie was about everything, and we kind of allowed ourselves to feel the movie more than think about it and break it down.
Exactly.
We didn't want to break it down.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
so I guess the first time we felt the movie more rather than thought about it more, which is perfect.
Yes.
This time around, I did a little more thinking. And yeah, it did come together for me in terms of the more specific themes that the movie was trying to explore.
Right, and the director's intentions.
Yeah, noticed the dialogue a little more.
I noticed the world building a lot more. Like all the sci-fi sort of, the cars, the self-driving cars specifically, the virtual FaceTime thing, just kind of how they seem to be living in some sort of kind of a utopia where they're supposedly struggling, but they live in this beautiful, beautiful house, which anyone would want to live in. What else? Clones. Well, that's a whole different thing, but anyway.
Speaking of the beautiful house, the first time I watched it, I was like, I want to live in this house. I will live in this house in the future. It's wow. Like, it's so, it's like very zen, very like minimalistic, and just like a very serene space. It's like going to a spa, but yeah. And so after I watched the movie, I did a little research about the stage production and set design, and I found out that they used a specific type of house for the film, which is called an Eichler house, and an Eichler house is basically the type of architecture they used for the film, for the main house. And apparently, I think it was, these types of houses were based in California at first, but I think they shot the film in New York and found one of these houses in New York.
Whoa.
So the production design manager for the film was looking to basically like impart the importance of outdoor space and vegetation through the set design, specifically like the architecture and design of the houses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And
because the way the house was like it had kind of courtyard in the middle with a tree.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
That was really great. And apparently, for the sci-fi world that they were living in, they wanted each of the materials to be like non-disposable, renewable, or biodegradable. So the film is like set. Apparently, I didn't realize this, but it's set in a post-apocalyptic world.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So something happened. I don't know specifically what. It's vague. But something related to the environment, maybe.
Yeah.
And so now their world is like connected by technology and nature. Yeah, so it's all very like subtextual. We don't learn about it, but I just discovered this by reading up an interview.
So this is Kogonada saying that's like the background.
Yes, well, it's the production design manager saying that this is the background.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I guess since we're speaking of this production design manager and I'm reading off his interview, I'll just read this. He says that, oh my gosh, I think it's a woman, it's not a he. I thought it was Alexander Scholar, but it's Alexandra Scholar. Okay, so Alexandra says that one of the central themes of the film is the idea of connection to others, but I also interpret it as a meditation on our connection to the world around us, to something greater than ourselves. As this is quite an interior film, both existentially and spatially, we sought every design opportunity to bring the outside world in, and in order to reinforce the idea of interconnection. So I feel like, at least to me, I feel like it really captures the film really well. I do think the film is about connection in a lot of ways to the world around us, the natural world around us, and also to the people around us. But I really think that the film conflates the two, so there isn't like a sharp distinction between people or the natural world. It sort of combines them in this flow state.
And not only people and the natural world, but people and the natural world and technology.
Technology, yeah. Yeah, that's so impressive now that we put it in that way. Yeah, it doesn't feel like any one element was intrusive. It all felt very organically connected. And I know we brought up the famous montages earlier, but I'm going to go back to them. So when Jake puts on these special glasses to look through Yang's memories for the very first time, that was the first scene that made me cry.
Same.
Yeah, it was, wow. Like, I didn't think I would be able to cry the second time around while watching this movie, but just that scene, that was I think the only scene that made me cry the second time around. And it was because you get to see the world through Yang's eyes, and the way he sees the world is so beautiful. It feels like he is so connected to the natural world around him and to the people around him, but at the same time he himself is a piece of technology. But you forget about that when you see the world through his eyes. And most of the scenes for the montages is basically Yang looking at nature and the way nature interacts with each other. You know, the way sunlight filters through the trees, or the way someone in his household is lingering in their room. You can see Yang peeking through doors or windows, looking at people and nature and objects. And just the way it was shot was so beautiful. Like, it was so moving. It's like basically capturing the way someone sees the world in almost a perfect way, like just seeing the world through someone's eyes. And yeah, it just moved me so much. And I feel like it captures the world in a way where you forget the world could be that way. Like, the world could be that beautiful.
Exactly. And that was what was so moving about the movie the first time I saw it.
Okay, what happened the second time? Did you not feel that way?
No, it's just that the montage didn't really touch me.
Okay.
Maybe because I stopped seeing the world that... No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why, but it is true. Like, how he sees intimacy between Jake and Kira.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That was also really beautiful. Yeah, I agree to everything you just said.
Okay, thank you. I agree to myself, too.
And at some point, we all see the world in that way, right? Because what was crazy about the first time I saw it was just a few days before I saw After Yang, I had also filmed, like, how the sunlight... How did you describe it? Like,
filters
just
through the trees.
Yeah, filters through the trees, and how you see the leaves just, like, wavering. I'd filmed a video exactly like that a couple days before.
Yeah, I remember you showing me the video, too, and you were like, oh my god, yeah. I filmed this in exactly the way that the film shot the trees.
That was crazy. Anyway, and it's just so... be able to see the world that way, so beautiful, and just to be so appreciative of those little things, and so connected, like you say, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I think you're right. Recently, I've also, sometimes forgotten to see the world that way. But I think it's when, like, I remembered seeing the world that way, which is why I was motivated to rewatch After Yang. Like, I think the moment I mentioned earlier, I was like, oh, this feels like After Yang. I think I should rewatch. But if I wasn't feeling that way, I don't think I would have been in a place to rewatch it. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I think that's maybe what happened.
So, yeah, and I think the point of this film for me was just seeing the world in that very particular way. And that was, like, the beauty of the film. And I don't think anything else has ever moved me in that way.
Right, because it just, like, highlights the beauty of life in such a perfect way.
Yeah. It's like a piece of philosophy, almost, the film itself. It's
Whoa.
Showing you how to see the world and how the world can be seen.
I see, yes, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just so incredible. And just like no other film has had that effect on me.
Is there like a body of thought or whatever where they think this way in philosophy? Is there a name for this?
I'm supposed to know because maybe. Oh my gosh, wait. I guess if it was similar to any philosophy, maybe some strain of Buddhism about the flow of things, but I'm a little out of practice with that philosophical thought. And I think so. My theory is this is the type of philosophy that can't be articulated, only shown.
Oh, yes.
Deep, right? Yeah. Which is why I love it so much. Yeah, that's also why I didn't do much thinking the first time around, because I was just feeling it and living in it. And which is why it makes so much sense that Kogonada studied, like, aesthetic theory. I hope I got that right, but I remember that, yeah. So he was so well equipped to convey that. This is just a little tangent, but in my mind, I compare it to other films that also try to interpret the world and convey their theory of the world, but in a more nihilistic way. And they use a lot of dialogue to tell us that, life is pointless, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But, at the end, love is what matters. Just in comparison to that, this movie is so novel and like extraordinary and fresh in showing us that the world can be seen in a very different way.
That's a very interesting point. So would you say that, well, there was dialogue that definitely tells you what they're trying to say, what the movie's trying to say. But it feels
in
less...
this movie?
Yes, but it feels less like exposition, more like an actual
let's
dialogue
talk
in
about
life.
The dialogue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I paid a little more attention to the dialogue this time around.
Same.
And I can see how if you were just reading the dialogue in like script form with nobody performing it, it might sound cheesy. Because they do get into like deep topics, and like they have a whole sequence where they talk about tea and like the history of tea and how drinking tea can't be articulated, but then this German trader or explorer tried to articulate it. And anyways, it doesn't make sense if you don't watch the movie.
It's about the journey, about finding like a flavor of tea that encapsulates a moment in life or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I guess if you were like reading it on a script, it could come out cheesy if the performances weren't well done. But I think I noticed the performances a lot more this time around, and they were like impeccable.
Except for the kid.
I think the kid is just being a kid. Like, I think.
Okay, yes, this is a common, like, this is an ongoing thing. I do not like kids very much. When they're on screen, I usually don't like their performance, but Selena's argument is that they're just being a kid and it's because I don't like kids. But I'm arguing that she was good most of the time, but sometimes she does something where it's like it's obvious she's acting and you're just like, oh, I caught you acting.
Okay, that's fine. Kids, I don't know, aren't perfect actors, but also they act like kids and aren't perfect human beings.
No.
So the performances, it's the performances that really make the dialogue shine and makes it, in my humble opinion, not pretentious and not cheesy. Like, it just felt so organic and so true to what their characters are and what their characters are trying to say. So, for example, in that tea conversation scene, Justin H. Min was so perfect for the role. He's just like this, he's supposed to be a robot, but he plays the curious robot role really well, and his voice especially, it's very like soothing and not monotonous, but just curious. And he plays a techno sapien really well, and also some like a individual almost, even though he's not an actual human being that wants to
just
know
a really
the world.
Warm presence.
Yeah, he is a warm presence. And also, on the other end, Colin Farrell was so good.
Yes, we love Colin Farrell.
Yeah, like, wow. He just, yeah, dude, he played his role so well. So he had some of those cheesy lines, but he said them in a way that is so real and organic, and it made it work.
Yeah. But also with those central sort of dialogue scenes, that tea conversation between Yang and Jake, but also the conversation between Yang and Kira, which was about, what was it about?
Yang and Kira had a conversation about, oh my god, I remember this. So first they were talking about Yang's butterfly collection.
Yes.
And then they were talking about endings and how the ending is a new beginning. And oh my gosh, Justin H. Min's performance. Do I have to say his full name all the time? I'll just say Justin. Justin's performance was so, wow, like incredible in that scene.
Yes. Wasn't there like a single tear coming down his face?
Yeah. When he says, I think it's okay if there's nothing in the end.
Right, he says, there has to be something for there to be nothing.
Yeah, and like you see, like that's one of those lines where if you just, in the wrong context, it can be kind of unnatural and stagey, but
like the end of Asteroid City,
delivered so perfectly.
Yeah, when they're all chanting.
Yeah.
What were they chanting in Asteroid City?
I don't even remember what was happening.
Also existential, though.
Yeah, but more in-your-face existential. I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And a totally different in-your-face aesthetic as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but what I was going to say about those two main dialogues was how it's edited in a way where there are different takes and it's like overlapping dialogue and repeated.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that plays into making it, I don't know, giving it a different feel. How did you interpret that?
Oh yeah, so what you're describing is like how like the same scene is repeated, but in like slightly different ways, right?
Yeah, like
different
and then
shots,
different shots,
tone,
the same line spoken in a different way, but like edited so that it's like right after it having already been said. It's just like a very trippy kind of. Is this glitching?
Okay. Yeah. So the way I interpret it was that it's demonstrating how our memory works. How we don't remember a moment the same way every time we try to remember it. And yeah, so like maybe a piece of memory is fleeting and fragile, and there isn't one continuous way that it's remembered. Like it's not something we can own or keep as something that's permanent. Yeah, so to me it felt like they're trying to grasp onto memories, trying to remember what happened.
Kind of like it was fading.
So they're seeing the memory that they have through Yang's mind, but how Yang saw the memory is different from how they experienced it and how they remembered it. So they're seeing the scene in 3 different ways, essentially. How Yang saw it, how they saw it, and how they remember it. And probably there might be different additional ways, but yeah.
I kind of got that feeling from like a moment where the camera angle changed in a way where it was like, oh, the perspective just changed. But it wasn't that clear.
Yeah, it's supposed to be abstract, I think.
It just works, like.
Yeah, for me it felt like different ways of remembering something or seeing something. And there's so many perspectives involved, right? Like Yang himself, the characters themselves. And I don't know if you remember, but like when Jake's character is remembering this one scene where they like took a family portrait together, he went back to look at the actual photo that was taken himself. Yeah. So he looks at the photo and then he puts the glasses back on and tries to see the photo through Yang's eyes, to see how the photo was taken through Yang's eyes.
Yes.
So it's like seeing the same thing but like through different lenses.
And that editing was used again in that scene.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that was genius. Like, just hats off to Kogonada. Like that shooting style. Like, that in itself, stylistically, was beautiful.
The editing?
Yeah. And the decision to, like, intercut the different ways of seeing the same moment.
He must have already thought about that, right? So that's, like, 5 times the number of takes you normally need. Because you actually need 5 different takes.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of, like, the cinematography and the different takes, I also noticed this time around that there were a lot of shots that were, like, compositionally, it stays in the same frame, and the characters move about the scene and do what they're doing without the camera moving. So it's like a little bit of distance between the viewer and the scene. It's like watching a scene in a play. Yeah, so the first time I really noticed it was the scene where he takes Yang to the mechanic. I think it was the second time, but the camera stays like at the doorway and you just see Jake and the mechanic move and talk without ever having like close-up shots or anything. Right. Yeah, and there were several scenes that were shot that way, and that really worked for me. I really loved that strategy.
Yeah, and the stillness of it.
Yeah. So, okay, that's a really good point. So, like, the stillness of it, I think that's what also made the movie work. Like, it lets us observe how things work in nature, how things move about organically, without trying to, like, manipulate the scene or heavily manipulate the way we see it. Which would involve, like, close-up shots, like, you know how some of these indie films get really close at someone's face.
Right, yeah. And, like, the skewed angles.
Like, look at their skin, look at their eyes.
Their pores. Look at it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's fine too, but this is like a reversal of that still works and has the same effect, maybe even more powerful. I don't know.
Yeah.
Another scene that really stood out was, this was in the beginning, and it was so it's also another one of those distant scenes, but you see a lot of, like, the living room or the kitchen of their house. And so Kira leaves the home, and then Jake and Miko.
Mika.
Mika. Oops. Jake and Mika leaves, and they go through different exits, and the camera is still in the same place.
Yeah.
And then Haley Lou Richardson's character sneaks in.
Mm-hmm.
Camera's still in the same place, but you just see all of this happen in one frame.
Yes.
Just compositionally.
And you know what? This speaks to what the set designer said about how they tried to connect the outside and the inside and the people. It's kind of like that. Like, with one frame, they're trying to capture all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we spoke about the cinematography, also music. Music was pretty good. I've been listening to the music.
Oh yeah, music. Yeah, the music is nice. Very calming. Very indie.
Yes, that indie vibe we're looking for. And the Mitski.
Oh yeah. Yeah, is the Mitski song the one where it's like where they featured it
in the end credits?
Yeah.
It's like I wanna be.
Oh yeah, that one. I'm gonna listen to that song.
I have been. Now. I was just listening to it.
Damn. Yeah. Oh.
Well, you brought up something interesting earlier about Yang. When we were talking about the montages, Yang seeing the world, even despite being a techno-sapien, seeing it in a way where he's so connected with the world and people and nature around him. And, like, what's interesting is he seems to have figured out life better than the people.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely lost. There's a whole conversation between Haley Lou Richardson's character and Jake, I think, about how Yang had sort of an identity crisis about whether he was really Chinese and stuff like that. He was also lost, but he just saw what was important, really. He was so much wiser.
Yeah.
And we later find out when Jake's going through his memories that he has actually been through so many families and been through a lot. So he's like in that way much wiser than everyone else. I don't know.
Yeah, he is.
Like what he said to Kira as well about there having to be something for there to be nothing.
Yeah.
And just stuff he says.
Yeah, which would freak a human out normally, I guess. But
you don't really think about him as a techno-sapien. Like, he's just a human.
Yeah. So this movie is also about what it means to be human.
Yes, very much so. Like, later on, as we see Jake dealing with Yang, who's broken, he kind of talks about him like his son. He starts to talk about him more like his son, and less like a caretaker for Mika. And I wondered if he really saw him that way. I don't think he did initially.
Yeah, maybe not. Remember when they were having the conversation about the tea? He did, at least the scene that we saw, he did kind of start treating him like a son. He said, maybe you should take up the trade of tea making.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are moments. Right. There are moments where he does feel that way, but then he gets distracted in the other times that we see him around Yang, and Yang becomes a robot again to him. Yeah, it's just all these little moments where we're so grounded and present, I guess. Maybe that's the word for it.
Yeah. And
when we're present, these things matter and we feel more, but when we're not, we lose sight of the things that matter.
Well, I kind of wanted to ask you.
Wow, because, question for me. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of personal, I suppose, but
okay.
There's near the beginning of the movie, there's this whole thing about Mika saying her parents aren't really her parents because she's adopted, and then Yang does this whole life lesson thing where he brings Mika to a tree forest thing where they take a branch from another tree and then stick it onto the trunk of another tree and weld it together, basically. And it asks a bunch of existential questions about not just that scene, but later on about what it means to be Asian in addition to being human. And just all the existential identity crises stuff. Have you had any existential or identity crises recently?
Recently, I don't know. I know that I'm not Asian presenting, or at least East Asian presenting. But I'm gonna be honest, I never really cared about that stuff as much. I don't know, these are real questions, but they don't matter to me as much because to me it's like, also I guess it's connected to what the film is trying to say. It's just a label. Like, does it mean much?
Yes,
does it mean much of anything?
Doesn't mean anything.
So like,
they're all the
so,
same.
Exactly. So like Yang is asking himself that question because he doesn't think it matters, I would guess.
Or that there is no answer because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you can tell, like, people's cultural upbringings shape how they think and how they interact in the world. But yeah, I guess in this very ideal setting where the family is so diverse, it shouldn't really matter. But at the same time, to them, it does matter because they want their daughter to stay in touch with her Chinese heritage.
Exactly.
And I think the point was to show that it doesn't matter. Like, she didn't need to have, quote unquote, stayed in touch with her heritage.
It wasn't really about Yang's Chinese fun facts that made him so useful. It was just his curiosity and his perspective on life.
Yeah. Yeah, the way he was connected to people in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Had nothing to do with his Chinese fun facts and the Chinese that they spoke, which was limited to Mei Mei and Gogo.
That's so funny. Gogo. That's cute. Yeah, so I guess, like, in a way it's trying to say that beyond these... I mean, this is, I guess, a very, like, straightforward theme that a lot of people have tried to talk about or explore, but I mean, this does it in a very subtle way. Like, beyond, like, labels or what you see someone as on the outside, it's about how we can sincerely connect with people and the world around us. Mm-hmm. In this very ineffable way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to see the movie. We can't tell you what it is with words.
Yeah. Speaking of, I also really loved the way, like, the intimacy between Jake and Kira. Like, I felt like that was so natural. The performance for that was spot on. They were so good. Like, I could feel their intimacy, their love, their...
Even though they didn't do anything...
Friction.
By the way, the very last scene where Jake and Kira are sitting next to each other and he has his arm around her. And then he gives a little smile because I think that's him remembering how Yang had seen them do exactly that before on that couch. Okay, right?
I remember the couch scene and them being intimate and me feeling warm about it, but I don't remember... Like, I didn't catch that it was because Yang saw them that way.
Well, because I just saw a little smile come across Colin's face, and I was like, oh, he's remembering. And if that really was his intention, like, brilliant acting, honestly.
He was so good in this. This is probably the best.
He was so good.
Yeah.
He was so good. God, the reason I was so depressed from this movie was because I was so tuned into his performance, and you could just feel his depression.
Yeah.
And that's why it had a completely different effect on me.
That's good. I feel like it's good to experience a movie in a different way.
Yes, true. And it was also profound, and
yeah,
I still love the movie. It was just not what I went into the movie needing, you know?
That's true. That is very true. Yeah. Oh, he was so good in this. It's crazy. And it's just, I don't know, it's a shame that this is so under the radar and underrated.
Yes. And when we first saw this, we would compare this to Everything Everywhere All at Once all the time.
Oh my
talk
God.
about this is so much better and deserves all the hype that Everything Everywhere All at Once is getting.
Yeah, we are not going to talk about that movie now, but yeah, okay, so I think this is the best Justin performance I've seen, one of the best Colin performance I've seen, and also the actress that plays Kira, she was so good as well, like...
Yeah, they were all good.
Yeah. Also, in this movie, Haley Lou Richardson did not look like Haley Lou Richardson.
Yeah, the hair was like, what?
Yeah, I liked her too in this movie.
Eh.
Okay.
Did you like her in White Lotus?
I liked seeing her character make stupid decisions in White Lotus, but yeah.
No, man.
She's very good in Columbus, I will say that.
Okay.
You should watch.
But back to Yang, because he, the name of the movie is after Yang. Like, it's about Yang. I guess. What do you think makes a memory, this is super, like, philosophical. What do you think makes a memory worth remembering the way? Because the whole thing with the museum was they were trying to understand what techno-sapiens deemed important or valuable enough to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Because they decide what they want to remember, what they want to keep in their memory in these 5-second clips. So what do you think makes a memory worth remembering?
The way maybe someone or something makes you feel. I think, in every single clip we saw through Yang's eyes, there were, like, very strong emotions or very strong contemplations.
Yes.
And you also felt it in the moment, too. Yeah.
Yes. So visceral.
Yeah.
And what you notice when Jake goes back to Yang's earlier memories from his previous families is they're not all happy. Like, that one family is so sad. The one where, like, the son leaves and the mother gets sick. It's so sad. But that's what he remembers.
Yeah. And just comparing the tone of Yang's memories and what we see of the family in the beginning just through, like, the filmmaker's lens, if you just compare that, like, what's captured in the beginning just, like, filmically versus what we see through Yang's memories, it's, like, different, and also it's, like, a contrast between just, like, a continuous reel of your everyday life versus what he's preserving, and what he's preserving are the moments that were so much more moving to us. Yeah, I wonder, so, like, the scenes were moving, this is also, like, I guess an existential question, but were they moving in retrospect or were they actually moving in the present? I think both, maybe, but in between the two times, like, you just forget. I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't know what you're asking.
So, okay. Jake puts on the glasses and sees his conversation with Yang about the tea. And seeing that conversation, he realizes that it was like existential and powerful and moving. But did he feel that way at the moment?
I felt like he did.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But maybe he forgot about it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you feel these things in the moment. They're so profound. You're so moved. You're like, oh, wow. But then you forget.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened.
Mm.
Colin is so good. Oh, I just can't.
He was fantastic in this.
He's really, like, going up there to one of my favorite actors ever.
Yeah, this was such a good performance. Oh my gosh. Did you have any thoughts about, like, grief or loss? Because I guess this movie is called After Yang, and they lost
Yeah, it's about
Yang.
grief. Not gonna lie, anything about grief or loss doesn't really hit me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been lucky enough, I guess, to not experience loss like that. You?
Yeah, not like directly relatable, but I did try to notice it a little more in this movie, and in a way that is most present, his loss hit Mika the most. She was the one that was going through the grieving process right from the beginning. And
yeah, it didn't, though.
What do you mean it didn't?
Like, in the beginning, yes, Mika was, like, the one most overtly upset by Yang being broken.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, I feel like, really, Jake and Kira start to process and grieve, and you see that they probably were more touched by Yang because maybe they're more intelligent, you know, whatever.
So I think Jake and Kira were touched in an existential way about, like, his existence and how they didn't fully realize or always realize that he was this, also in a way, a being that was processing the world. Whereas for Mika, he was just a person to her. He was her gaga. And even though we don't see the world through her perspective, it's mostly through Jake's, I think there's a sense that, yeah, to her, he's a real person, and and this person is gone, and she's taking it very
True.
hard. And there's this, so the one scene that stood out to me was in the beginning when they were trying to bring Jake to like quick fix or whatever, and he was on her lap, and then she was like stroking his face. I thought that was really moving and really sweet and touching. Yeah, she said something like gaga something, and then was like stroking his face. I was like, wow, pain.
Her singing in the end. What did you think about her little Chinese like thing, what she said to Yang as kind of a eulogy?
It was fine. I think it was touching. I think I know what you're gonna say, but
What am I gonna say?
I think you're gonna trash it, but
No.
Okay.
I was just curious because you speak Chinese fluently. I don't speak it fluently. I was actually kind of like, is her Chinese like, is she botching it?
Oh,
like the tones?
It's fine. No offense to my Asian American friends out there, but their Chinese is like that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, dude, they're
Okay, so I'm right in saying it's definitely not native, right? Because like it did not sound.
But it's like, it's natural for someone who grew up in the States and doesn't speak it all the time. Right. But they do like speak it.
Okay, yes. She's like Indonesian Chinese, so.
Oh wow, okay.
American.
I did love to see the scene where like before she goes into his room, we see her like go out one door, cross the courtyard, and into another. Yes. That was such a good scene compositionally. Yeah. Yes,
I agree. That's exactly what I was thinking about when I said like the layout of the house is so beautiful with the courtyard in the middle. Like it's like you just open this sliding door and you go to the courtyard and then go to another part of the house. It's like
it's so
that's the way homes were though in like back in the whatever
back in the days.
Like the what's the word? Like dynasties and stuff, when there were dynasties. Like Chinese, Korean, whatever, they were all like that.
Okay, before we wrap the conversation up, because I need to go soon, but I do want to say my dream is to live in that type of home as like a shared space with my friends. So it's like a commune type of environment.
Am I invited?
That's why I'm bringing it up here. I'm planting this idea in your head so you remember. So we can collectively pitch in the money to make this happen.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Dude. But what country is this little project gonna be in? That's the problem.
Anywhere in nature. Anywhere that has nature. I don't know. Just like...
Okay, but not Korea, okay?
Okay, we can settle on that. Okay.
Great, that sounds good.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
If you want to feel old, look up the girl who plays Mika, because, you know, she's grown up a lot.
Oh, wow, okay.
You sent me the girl who plays Sophie in After Sun, another fucking brilliant movie with the word after in the title, but
I didn't
you sent me her
that.
Instagram, and she's grown up so much.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah, she did. Or maybe she was just like that all along and she performed really well as a really young person.
No, but you know what I mean when I say she grew up. Like, she's not a kid.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. All right, so that's our thoughts on After Yang. Obviously,
Selena has to go see the vice president of Taiwan.
That is true. I'm going to a banquet where I will see the vice president of Taiwan from afar. Maybe he'll walk by, but I don't have the guts to talk to him, so.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you for listening to Real Talk. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. You can also follow us for updates on Twitter and Substack. This has been a Real Talk. See ya.
Bye. Watch After Yang, if you haven't already. And have your life changed.
By the way, okay, I know we already said bye. But, like, when we first saw this, we would, like, judge people based on whether they liked the movie or not.
Yeah, it says a lot about a person if they don't. Okay, so... Okay, this is, like, post-credits conversation.
Okay.
I think if the movie doesn't move you in the same way, it says something
You're a
about
monster.
how you... I'm gonna use a euphemism. I don't know, I think it says something about how you see the world. And... Oof, I know, no, okay, not not trying to take a dig at anyone, but I think it just means you don't see the world in that way. And maybe you're getting there. Or maybe you won't ever see the world in that way, so it's fine, but, like... Because I think this movie is about seeing the world in a way, and if you see the world in the same way, you click.
Yes, and I just want to say thank you for telling me about this movie and making me watch it, because great movie, very moved, and I told a bunch of people to watch it as well, and they love the movie, and they also, you know, were, like, thankful that they saw the movie. So, yeah, go do yourself a favor and go watch it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
For real.
For real.